Shall we? So, all right, that's what we're going to do today, Jose. It's kind of tricky, but it's kind of not. The thing is, you at this point you should be good at solving these. These you just factor, right? And then you solve it because it's set equal to 0. So once it's set equal to 0, you factor it and you solve it, right? So like if you had something, like let's say it said this, you would have to use inverse operations so it wouldn't be like this, it would be equal to 0. Because then, once you have your factors, what that really means is one number times another number equals 0. So one of those two numbers has to equal 0, so you set them both up and then you solve it, right? Well, this is actually the same. The thing is, you know how this is one number right here because of the parentheses. And this is a different number right here because of the parentheses. Right? So when you have parentheses and you have a whole bunch of junk in the middle, it doesn't matter what it is, right? That's just one number. It just looks weird, right? But whatever's in the parentheses group it together and make it one thing. So this is one number, and the thing you got to recognize is that's the same number. This is one number squared. This is the same number, but it's being multiplied by -2. These two things are almost the same exact thing. Because what you have something you don't know squared, right? Minus 2 times that same thing, minus 3, and it equals 0. Here you got something you don't know squared, minus 2 times the same exact thing, minus 3 is 0. It's going to be the same exact steps, with one little exception. And sometimes it might look like this too. Sometimes it might look like x minus 2 times the square root of x minus 3 equals 0. And this is the same thing again, but it's harder to see because here you got something you don't know, and it's actually squared of this. This thing squared is that. If you take the square root of x and you square it, it's just x. If you square this, right, square x, all three of these are the same. Well, they're going to be solved the same way. These two we can just do, or this one we can just do directly. These two, we got to do something different. So let's see here. I don't know how to say this, so it's really, really clean. The thing is, you got to recognize how you have a number here that you don't know, and you have the same number here, and it's squared. So it's not a quadratic, but it's quadratic form. Same here. It's definitely not quadratic, but it's quadratic form because it's like ax squared plus bx plus c. So what you got is you got the middle term's got the unknown, and the leading coefficient, the leading term is that unknown, and it's squared. You see? That's quadratic, and these are quadratic form. Let me give you one more example. Let's do x to the 4th minus 2x squared minus 3. Not quadratic either, but it's quadratic form, so it's similar. Ivan, you see how they're all related?
Yeah.
Yeah? You sure? Yeah? Because that's the trick. Now, I set these up so they're all really similar, right? So it's always like the squared minus 2 times the thing minus 3. The squared 2 times the thing minus 3. The thing squared minus 2 times the thing is x squared is x to the 4th, right? And then minus 3. So they're all three all three of these are just like that. And I set it up to make it kind of clear. The hard part's recognizing it. All right, so here's what we do. We can't solve this one directly, so we're going to make it a little cleaner. What we're going to do is we're going to say let, we can use any letter we want. Let's use m. We're going to have m equal our thing right here. So what's going to happen is that's m, so that means this is m squared. Because this thing squared is that, right? Jose, you good? You sure? Okay. So we got m squared minus 2 times m minus 3 equals 0. So this is the first step This is the trick, is seeing this. Once you see this, you can write it out like that, and then you can just factor. So, and then you can solve it. So m equals 3, and m equals -1, right? But we're not solving for m, we're solving for x. But we have solved for m, and we know that m equals this. M equals 3, and m equals this, so this has to equal 3. I hate my life. So x is 7, and x is 3.
Cool.
Crazy, huh? Kind of weird. That's the thing that's the thing we have to get good at today. Can handle it? Yeah. Should we do the other two together?
Let me try one by myself.
You're ready to try one by yourself?
I want to.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Which one of these two you want to do? Call it A and B. You pick one. Doesn't matter. You pick either one. You can try it.
I'm gonna try A.
Okay. You gonna do A too, or you gonna do B?
Do A.
All right. I'm going to rewrite them in the next paper, okay? So we got room to do some work.
Porque pues es que mira, yeah, si let's make m equal x. So the first is gonna be -2m in that case.
Yeah.
Alright, so I got that, and then the square root of m. Yeah, see the yeah, the square. Yes.
The book always uses the letter U, but I don't like writing the letter U.
Hey.
It doesn't matter what letter you use. For this, yeah, it makes no difference. This is something I had the hardest time learning how to do when I learned it as a student.
Oh, I'm having a hard time, but I just want to see what I can do.
It's one of those things that, like, once you see it, it's like, oh, duh. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I just want to see if you guys are doing this. This is what you're doing, right?
But it's not squared, though. Or you do put the square in?
It is squared.
The first one's squared?
This is that squared. If you so you take, so look, in a quadratic you have ax squared plus bx plus c, right? If you take this thing and you square it, that's what you get right here. If you take this thing and you square it, that's what you get right there. That's the hard part to see. Because the square root of x squared, so let's see here. The square root of x, if you square that, that's just x.
Yeah.
Take a minute, make sure you get like watch. Washa. If you did the square root of 9 and you squared it, that would be 9.
Well, I get that it cancels out because square root and square root are the opposite, but the fact that the problem's written without the square root, or being squared,
It didn't show you the squared because it simplified it. So it's really the same as like, I'm going to write it in pink. The pink part's not written, okay? Whoa, he did show up. Man, I'm glad. It's a good thing. Today's kind of a tricky thing. It's tricky and it's easy all at the same time. Like Jose's like experienced the same thing I experienced, so did Ivan. It's like, oh, I got this, and then you go to it and it's like, wait a minute. Right? It's like, oh, this is easy. Why is this hard?
Since I started the example, I mean, like, wait a minute.
You guys are like, oh, Mr. Brown, I was doing one. You're like, oh, Mr. Brown, this is easy. What are you? Shut up. This is easy. What are you talking about? This isn't hard. This isn't tricky.
Okay. I get it. I think.
So I guess, Jose, the moral of the story is you need something like this. If you don't have squared and then the thing, then you didn't do it right. Because you want a quadratic that you can solve.
So for the problem, we're just gonna have one n or multiple n's.
Just one.
Just one of that one.
Yeah. So m and then m squared. And that's how this is going to be. See that thing, if you square it, that's what that is.
So the previous one we did, we had more than one.
No, it was the same.
Was the same?
Yeah. Yeah, we ended up with this exact same thing.
No, but the previous problem.
Yeah.
We didn't put more.
No, it was same thing.
What?
Yep, same thing. We ended up with the same equation. What's that?
So it's going to be just one, and then you plug that in.
So yeah, you just solve this, right? You factor it. So m equals -1 and m equals +3, right? The only thing different between this problem and the last one is what m equals. Here, m equals the square root of x. And that's what we have to solve for is x. So here, x equals 1 and x equals 9. Get the square to solve for x, right? That's it. Here, let me show you on the next one. Let me show you on the next one. So you see how I've got something and I squared it to get this? Well, I didn't, but the way it's written, right? If this number or this thing squared is that thing, right? That's the pattern. That means it's a quadratic form because, right, these are quadratic equations. We know how to solve them. That thing squared is right there. Thing is, it doesn't always look squared. Like here, it doesn't look like it's squared, but it really is. So we're going to use k this time. K? K. Right? So that's k right there, and that's k squared, because that's x squared squared. So we got k squared minus 2k minus 3 equals 0.
Oh, I see it.
K minus 3, k plus 1. So k equals 3, k equals -1, and k again was x squared. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 3, and x equals, man, it's imaginary. What's plus or minus I? We can just leave, for what we're going to do in this class, we can just leave that, but you know that the square root of -1 equals I. It's imaginary. It's a special number. Yeah. You missed a lot in 15 minutes, Edgar.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Dang. Imagine if you didn't show up at all, huh? Right? Yeah. Man. What's up?
So you read them out?
No, nobody had questions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we just dove right in.
Alright.
We just hit the road running. We just hit the ground running. Yes, sir.
So for the B, would it be possible always to take
The
that
thing
out,
recorded.
and that would equal,
Wait, take what out?
like in this case, x squared, and that's what k,
Yes.
and then you subtract that
Well,
a, which will give you the k squared minus 2k.
well, it's kind of like this. If x squared equals k, this is that thing squared, so that thing squared is going to be like, I don't know if that makes any sense. Hold on. Here, let me see. Let me see if I can. Because what you're saying is not quite right. You're going to get yourself kind of confused. So let's see if we can. And you're confused right now, which is fine, right? So would you agree? Like I didn't change anything, right? That's what you meant, right?
But like for the next problem,
Yeah.
I'll see if I can.
I know what you're saying. I understand what you mean.
Would it work?
Yeah, it works that way. It kind of works that way. But you're not really taking anything out. You're just substituting. Yeah. So you ready to try one? Listo?
Let's see if I.
I'll save this for you, Edgar. I'll even sign it for you. That's fancy. Equela. All right. Let's do x plus 5 squared minus 6 times x plus 5 minus 7 equals 0. Here's the key before you dive in, okay? Here's the one thing I gotta get you to be really, really careful about. These are the same. Well, like in the parentheses. And that's key. If these were different, if this was a plus 5 and this was a minus 5, game off. You gotta do something totally different. Because,
Only when it's positive?
well, it's not, no, it doesn't matter if it's positive or not. It matters if they're the same.
Oh yeah, it's not the same.
Because x and x squared, like x and x have to be the same thing. Otherwise it won't be a quadratic form. Yeah. Edgar's like, I got this. Masha.
That's happening. So,
Yeah.
first, follow the order of operation.
What letter should we use? I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to like get it started.
K.
K again?
I think I like K because you use that for constant too.
Oh yeah, that works. So K is going to be X más 5, yeah? Okay, now we didn't write this, but that means then that K squared is going to be X más 5 squared, right? So we didn't write it last time, but that's what you're talking about, right?
Well, not exactly.
Yeah, you're saying it different, but that's what's happening, right? This term right here, squared, is the first term. Yeah, that's the key. This term right here is that term squared. So this term squared is that term. So you take the middle term, you square it, you get that one. Okay, so then we've got K squared minus 6K minus 7 equals 0. That's factorable. Negative 7 and positive 1, right? Okay, so then K equals 7 and K equals negative 1. Problem is we're not solving for K, we're solving for X. But now we can solve for X because all you got to do is resubstitute. K was X plus 5. So then X is negative 2 and negative 4. Negative 4 because it's positive 1. What?
Isn't it positive 2?
Negative 2, yeah. Dang it! Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. I blame Ivan.
Wow.
I know, sorry, Ivan. Man, that's the thing. You got to be so careful. It's so man, that's like a stupid mistake, right? I know 7 minus 5 is positive 2. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to mess up, so you got to be careful. Well, math is like dating. Hello, Alexa.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Well, that's good.
Buenas noches. ¿Está levantando?
No. Ando con el dedo.
Did you guys get it right?
No, I didn't.
Okay. What about Edgar? Get it right? Ivan?
No, I do.
Okay. Let's try another one. Ready? Listo? Man, did Alexa miss a lot in 22 minutes? Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky.
It's in 22 minutes of video.
It's tricky. Yeah. Okay, so let's try. Ooh. Okay, let's try this one.
Yeah, bro.
Oh man, I'm gonna steal your thunder. Sorry.
What?
I'm gonna steal your thunder. Oh yeah. Watch.
Oh, you're not gonna really do it.
No, watch. I'm gonna use K.
Ah.
You don't know.
So that's how it's gonna be.
So is this something new?
Yep.
No?
Yep.
Oh.
Mira, ahí está, ahí está, ahí está.
Well, there's no seat. Oh,
That's a 10.
Te avientas un ritual para que te salga esto. Un pentagrama.
How many minutes am I late?
Almost half an hour.
Almost half an hour.
Yeah.
Like 2 minutes.
Try it.
Are you sure? Alright, so we got.
Man, I'm sorry you used K. That was rude, wasn't it?
I just M.
Yeah. Or J. Bien. Bueno,
Negative K squared plus
vamos primero a hacer sí cierto.
Looking back. Come on.
10 at the end is nasty.
What are you gonna do with it?
What?
Don't you need to move it over to the other side?
Is it very hard?
It's tricky to see. Like, to see what to do is tricky. To do it isn't very tricky. It's hard to understand what to do. Yeah.
El lunes estuve en Quadratic training, porque ya van a empezar ahí toda la gente que quiere cargar, si no, pues todos los que van a hacer para Navidad y todo eso. Y ya, ahí mire, porque pues si no llega un chorro de gente, demasiado. Y luego, fíjate, teníamos una especial de una bebida y ya va a estar gratis. Porque al parecer que se me hizo buena idea hacer eso, ya sabrás cómo nos fue.
¿Y vas a ir por hora de semana?
Va a ser desde el 9 hasta el 12.
¿Este mes?
De November 9th till November 12th. Se pasaron. Así que todo al principio, when you let any letter be K,
What's the
this is what this.
square root of 0 is still 0, right? Or is that imaginary number?
0.
Two, so say J?
Yeah, we'll say J.
Oh, then instead of K then?
Yeah. What letter do you
No.
are you
You could use X on this one, it'd be easier. Like,
I was
Like,
doing this
yeah.
one before the
Doesn't matter.
That's separating so easy. I don't know. I wasn't doing it like I didn't start it con Luis started doing it.
Oh.
Luis te start con J, right?
Oh, without any letter. You A.
Ivan, you see how you have to move the 10? It's quadratic form. You gotta move it. You gotta make it something like these are gonna be factorable.
Muy mal, muy
Or even
mal.
if they're not factorable, then you could use the quadratic formula. The thing is, like, we know how to solve all quadratic equations. So this is not quadratic equation, but it's a quadratic form. And so we can actually like do a little trick. So Alexa was going to show up on time today, but I told her not to because you guys are going to teach her how to like what happens right here, so that you guys know it better. Because she already knows this, but she's going to pretend like she doesn't. So let's do this. You ready?
I got it.
So somebody, I don't know. Let's pick on Edgar first.
What?
Hi, Edgar. Edgar, you didn't have. Wait, what are those things they sell at the Circle K? Like the little burrito things? No. The little, like the rolls. What's that? Tornadoes. Is that what they're called?
Tornadoes, yeah.
They're good. You didn't have one of those today?
No, I didn't.
Oh man. All right.
Did you taste one before?
No.
Son como unos taquis, pero
All right.
son unos como torcidos así. Son flaming hot
Este problem está diferente.
But
No,
tornado.
turbos.
No, not turbos. No, it's not a chip.
I'm gonna have some
It's
questions.
not
What?
chip?
No.
Is it bread?
No. Yeah, it's like got meat and stuff inside. Yeah, it's cool.
What?
All right. It's like a mini chimichanga.
Oh, you're talking about the ones they have on the.
I have no
on the
idea.
right side?
I have no idea.
Las flautas, eso. Suena.
All right. The point was, I was.
Yeah, I got out of topic. Don't do
No,
that.
it's okay. It's okay. I ask questions like that to get people talking because they're like, oh my god, he's going to ask me a math question. And then I don't ask a math question, it makes you relax. And then I ask the math question. See, there's a method to my madness. So anyway, it got all wrecked anyway, right, Edgar? All right, Edgar, can you tell us, like what's the like, what are we doing with this? Like right here. Like what's going on with all this stuff right here?
Oh, that's like what represents the numbers up there. Like where you were using M instead of K.
Yeah, so why are we doing this? Why are we saying like m is equal to the k plus 2?
To represent like.
Yeah, but why?
Equation.
Like why do we like, because you're right, that's what we did. We said that's 3 times this number, right? But we're saying like let's let that number be m. So we did 3 times m, right? But why do we do that? This is one of those things, if you don't understand the step, you're really going to mess it up. Yeah, so why do we change this into this?
Alright, hopefully I get it right.
By factoring.
No, but why? Why do we change this into this? Oh man, it's tricky.
Because m squared equals that equals the
That's all true. That's all true. But why do we do all of this? Because if you don't understand why, then you don't really understand. If you understand why, because look, I remember I told you when I first learned this, I had the worst time because I focused on this, and if somebody asked me those questions, I would have your answers, and they're not really. Yeah, I didn't understand why, and that's why I didn't get it. Why are we doing all this? Do you know, Jose?
So it's easier to factor.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. We can solve this. We can't solve this. Like, we can't solve this directly. We could square this and then distribute and combine like terms. We'd end up with like a k to the fourth and all kinds of stuff, and it would be very, very hard. Like, actually, with what we know in this class, we couldn't solve it at all. It would be impossible. But here's the thing. You're right. We did change it like this because we can solve that because this is factorable. But this trick works because, Ivan, here's why it works. You know, in a quadratic equation, right? You know this is x, and then this is that same thing squared. That's the pattern every time. Quadratic equations are always that way. Like 3x squared minus 4x minus 9. You see? X and x squared. You could do 10m squared plus 4m minus 3. You see? That number squared is right there. That's the pattern. And when you have a quadratic like this, we can solve it. Worst case scenario, we can use the quadratic formula. So what we're doing is we're seeing, see the number right here? It's squared right here. Do you see? It's the same pattern. Because this number squared is right here, we just let this be some other number, like that. And you see that number is squared right there. So we're going to say that number is m right here, and it's squared right there. So that's m squared. And then you can solve that, and then it's easy. Like once you have that, you're done. Like you're not done, but your chances to mess up are minimum. Is that 5 and positive 2?
Yeah.
So negative 2 and positive 5 are what m equals, right? But m, remember, m was k squared plus 2. Like this looks like a lot of work, but we're done actually. I mean, like the hard part's over. Like this is just inverse operations. Let's see, that's k squared equals 3. So k equals plus or minus the square root of 3, right? And negative 4.
What's negative 4?
Yeah, because you're going to subtract 2, right?
K squared equals.
Which is imaginary, right? This is not really the correct way to write this answer, but we haven't learned how to do that yet. So for now,
What's the
we're
correct
good.
way?
It has to do with writing imaginary numbers, so we're not going to get into that for yet. We will get into it later.
But everything you started to write down?
No, just this last little part right here. Just this part right here. We're going to leave it like that. Like for now, we're going to leave our answer like this. We're not going to do anything different yet. Later, I'll show you how to handle square roots of negative numbers, how to write them and all that stuff. But for now, we're just going to leave it like that.
But all that above it is part of the...
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think we should try an easy one. Let's do, Ivan, what letter should we use? Oh, I know. Ivan, D for drive. That's your favorite thing at work, right? Let's do D plus 4 squared plus D plus 4 minus 6 is 0. Alright, so you try that one. We're going to solve for d.
Do you remember what page the examples are on?
Not a clue. I know it's chapter 7.3 in the book.
Oh, yeah, it's right there. Page 5.
Es que para no confundirnos también, es que pues lo que estamos haciendo aquí para no hacer tanto desmadre, estos dos números son los mismos. So, para ese número yo no lo haces con una letra, en este caso pues me lo haces con un i. So, en case este número es i squared plus i, y luego pues aquí lo que es donde ando ahorita, ando ya no que roe. Pues está free.
Oh, why you?
Doesn't matter. The letter.
Whichever letter?
Yeah, you can use whichever letter.
Yeah, you can use any letter you want.
It's just to make the turn shorter. Yeah. Now I see what you mean. What you meant.
Do you? Yeah, good. Is this plus 3 minus 2? Is that right?
Yeah.
So doing it's not really that hard. The hard part is understanding this.
I got it.
Like how and why you do that. Probably even more important, why. If you don't understand why you do that, then it's going to be really tricky and it's going to be very difficult for you.
So what's the answer and why do you do it?
Because we can't solve this. Well, we could. Actually, this one we could solve. It would be a ton of work. But it's quadratic form. Because you see, it's the middle one. Look, right there. You see that? That's one number. It's not two numbers. It's in a group. That same number is right here, and it's squared. Do you see? There's the number. There's that same number squared. We can solve all of these. And it's easy. Because they're either factorable, or we could use a quadratic formula. So, because this is in a similar form where you have that number and here's that number squared, right? That means we can solve it. All we need to do is like make it simpler to work with. So we're going to say like let's make u, I could have used x, be d plus 4, which would mean this would be u squared. So that's what I write. I write u squared, right? Plus u minus 6 equals 0, and then you solve that. And it's factorable. Solve each factor, right? And there's your answers. Let's say you got those. Choca la mano. I learned all my Spanish from Nacho Libre.
Why -7?
I'm sorry?
Why -7?
Because I solved for D.
Oh, okay.
-7 plus 4 is -3. So yeah, you just subtract 4, or just read it and
You mean -4 and -3?
On the test, would you have to
Wait,
put
hold
like,
on, I didn't hear you. Hold on.
-4 and -3 is -7, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. What's up?
on the test, would you have to put like the 4 answers? Yeah, all 4.
Well, there's only 2 answers for this
Oh
one.
yeah, I know, but like the.
But yeah, like on the other ones, we had more answers. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the end, it has to be broken down all the way to those 2 terms, right?
Correct.
Those 2 answers. Alright.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Yes, ma'am.
why is the other one, those last answers, like, different than this one?
Well, because this thing right here was different. So depending on what this says, you're gonna have like different kinds of algebra you have to do. Because like sometimes this will be a square root, or sometimes it'll be a fraction, or sometimes it'll be, I don't know. So you're just using inverse operations to solve it. Okay. Let's try a medium level.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we're gonna do a difficult one.
And then we can take a nap.
A nap. This chick. What do you mean nap? Okay. Let's do. Oh no. Cuarenta.
Mister.
You can handle this. You're like 2-digit number? These take a while, right?
Two numbers that multiply to 40, but when you add them equals 3?
Exactly. I'm like, wait.
How?
Oh, and I bet if Mr. Brown is gonna find the answer, it's gonna be so obvious.
El 3 es parte de la letra, de una de las letras. El 3 times q squared plus 4.
Wait, say that again.
Like, let's say that I'm using the letter Q.
But mira,
Yours is K.
but don't use Q because it has Q in it.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't recommend using the same letter.
Alright, I'll use X.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 and 5.
Yeah, you're fine.
I got it with 8 and 5, yeah.
Pero el
Positive 8, negative 5, right? That would make 40. And positive 3.
Te quedaste con el 3 y 2.
No, Alexa? You don't know? Yeah, Alexa?
Give me, el first x va a ser equals to this, o sin ese 3.
No, tienes que sacar todo esto.
Todo.
Esto ya no existe. This, you replace it. Hasta lo último, then you plug it in. So, como aquí, this equation, sacas esto, so pon x equals that. Así igualito.
El Q square.
Ponen
Ya es lo que te está diciendo, pero el tree no tiene no
sí,
tengo que poner.
sí.
Oh, okay, that's my question. Yeah,
Ah, okay.
I get you.
Así, and then you just write it.
Yeah, este trae. Sí,
No,
¿verdad?
así no. Más, ese es the main.
El main one.
Y luego, la regular equation sería x squared plus 3x equals, no, it's minus 40. X squared plus 3 plus 3x.
Y el 40.
Minus 40.
That's 0, one.
Yeah, that's removed.
Pues, como que dice el positive 80 y el 5.